Have you ever heard a story so creepy that it doesn't just give you chills, it makes you look over your shoulder? Because these audacity stitches have took a trend and turned it into a full-on paranormal rabbit hole. I don't know about y'all, I could see myself making at least 5 more parts with the different stitches that I've seen. And that's just what I've seen in the last week. So if you are sensitive to the paranormal, you may need you a baño or some Florida water after this. Either way it goes, I got you. What's good? What's good in the YouTube hood? It's your girl, Luna Nova, and I'm back with another one for y'all today. Welcome back to the Mystic News, where we dive into the creepy, the conspiracy, and the downright strange. Today, we're diving into some of the craziest audacity stitches to ever hit my FYP. For the last few years, y'all have been dropping stories that have been darker, stranger, and more unexplainable. From glitches in the Matrix, hearing encounters of ghostly whispers in an empty room, these stories remind us that the worlds between the living and the unseen are a lot closer than what we've been taught. So grab a drink, grab a snack, get comfortable, and let's go ahead and dive into these audacity stitches. Only if you dare.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
So I had to hop on this trend because I could literally make a whole entire series about all the experiences I have had growing up, especially in the house that I grew up in. But I'll start with one really creepy story that literally gave me chills and still freaks me out to this day. When I was younger, my family had Korean exchange students that lived in our house, and um, one of the students shared a room with me, so we had a bunk bed, and she took the bottom and I took the top. Um, and during this time, my dad had removed all of the doors to all the rooms in our basement because we were getting new carpet. Um, and so I wanted a little bit more privacy. So for Christmas, my grandma gifted me some door beads, but they didn't come to the floor all the way. They were about a foot off of the floor. And my sister Callie would always come in and just steal my clothes, my makeup, whatever she wanted to use. And I was a pretty light sleeper, so she would slide under the door beads to come in the morning before school and to not wake me up. Um, there was one particular night where my exchange student was visiting her uncle in another state for Thanksgiving. So I was alone in my room. It was nighttime, everybody was in bed, and it was dark, and I heard my door beads. So I looked over and I see what looks like my sister, just like her silhouette, and she's got long, curly hair, and she was crawling on all fours with her hair, and her hair was like hanging in front of her face, and she was crawling on all fours, sliding under the door beads, and I could see the door beads like hitting against her back as she slid under. And once she got under, she like hurried to the end of my bed where the closet was at the foot of my bed. So I was thinking to myself, like, oh, I caught her in the act this time. I'm gonna totally tell her that I knew she was stealing my clothes. So I snuck to the edge, to the end of the bunk bed. And I just like, wow, like tried to scare her. And when I looked over the end of my bed, there was nobody there. So I just started screaming, and then my sister ended up running down the hall, and she came in and turned on my light, and she's like, what? And I was just like, you have, and I just freaked out and told her what had happened. But that was one time that was super, super creepy.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
Hi, so something really weird happened to me a number of years ago, and I haven't talked much about it outside of my family just because it's one of those things that happened, and I honestly couldn't believe that it did. And if other people had not been there with me, I still don't know if I would believe that it happened. But it's a long story, so buckle up. So, if you know anything about me and my mom's side of the family, you know that my mom's side of the family has experienced a lot of death, a lot of tragedy. Both of my mom's brothers died at the age of 38. Very kind of unexpectedly, they became sick. Um, my grandparents both died in their 50s, long history of sickness and illness. And so our family cemetery grew very fast because of this. So this was probably around 2013, 2014. My mom and her two surviving sisters decided to get together. It had been a number of years since we had all been together and gone to the cemetery and done like a floral arrangement for their brothers that had passed away and also their parents. I hadn't seen my cousins in a long time and I really wanted to spend some time with them, so I decided we could make like a family outing and I decided to tag along. Something really important to note about this story, though, is there is no cell phone service at the cemetery. It is the middle of absolute nowhere. There's nothing to walk to except a creepy old church and nothing but miles and miles of farmland. And it's always been this way. It's been this way as long as I can remember. There's no cell phone service, and this is important for later in the story. So I'm sitting in the back of my aunt's Toyota, and we're driving down the road, and my cousin, who is around my age, pulls out her camera that she had just gotten as a gift. And she's like, oh, this is so cool. Check it out. And this was, a long time ago. So a digital camera was a big deal. So we're sitting there playing with it. The battery is full. And, we're just taking goofy photos, whatever. And so as we get to the cemetery, she goes to take out her camera again as we approach some of the graves because we wanted some photos of our parents out there. And it won't turn on. And we both had this moment, we're looking at each other like, why won't it turn on? So we pull the batteries out, we're fiddling with it, and it will not work. It just says no battery, no battery. Like, okay, so whatever, we put that away. A little bit into the trip, one of my oldest cousin, well, she's not really my oldest, but oldest cousin present on this trip, is complaining she cannot find her cell phone anywhere. And the last person who had it would have been her son, who was probably around 7 or 8 years old at the time. And he's telling us, I don't know where the phone is. I don't know where the phone is. And there's no cell phone service, so nobody can call it and figure out where it is, right? So there's a fence that separates where you park your car and where the cemetery begins. Our family plots are right on the fence line, or at least very close to it. We're all inside this fence. Nobody has been outside of this fence. And I know this because I'm always the observer. I'm always watching people and seeing what they're doing. While my mom and her sisters are over there fiddling with flower arrangements, my cousin and I are kind of sitting on the gravestone and I'm watching my cousins to see what they're doing. Nobody walks outside of that fence. I'm telling you, there's no way. No one can find this phone. And all of a sudden, my mom's oldest sister, her phone starts making the weirdest noise. It was the weirdest beeping sound. It was not a sound that was programmed into the phone. It was not a downloaded sound. I don't know how to describe it other than it just wasn't her ringtone. She honestly didn't even know it was her phone at first because of how weird the sound was. When she held up her phone, there was two really alarming things that I noticed. First, the phone should not have been ringing. Even though it was showing that someone was calling, there was no service in the corner. Didn't make any sense. The second thing that surprised us all is we're standing in a circle watching this phone ring. There's no one else out there. And the phone that is calling hers is the phone that is missing. And this is the first point in the trip I start to feel really uneasy. Like, I'm trying to leave at this point. I'm like, Mom, like, I don't feel good about being here. Like, I really just want to go. But nobody else seems to be listening to me. Even though I'm like dying to get out of here. I know something is wrong. And in the midst of them not listening to me, what does my aunt do? She answers the phone. It's not a person on the other end of it. It is like this crackling sound, like someone like popping some like rocks or rolling rocks with their hand. And my mom and her sisters start crying and they're saying like, this is our dad calling us. This is our dad. And I'm looking around and I'm like, is nobody else scared? At this point, I'm ready to walk out of this place and just leave. Like, I literally head to the car. And as I'm walking out of this car, there's like this little covered pavilion that's like kind of by the entrance of the cemetery on the other side of the fence where the cars are parked. And sitting on that pavilion is my cousin's phone, face down, locked. Nobody was out there to have called from that phone to my aunt's number. When my cousin unlocks that phone, there is no record of a phone call. There's nothing on it. It says no service, No phone call has been made. How is that possible? I don't know. I literally bolted to the car. I said, I'm done with this. I'm so done. I'm out of here. I would not be sitting here crying saying it's my dad because I just didn't feel good about it. Maybe I was just easily spooked. I don't know, but I'm leaving. Deuces. I climb back in my aunt's Camry and we're driving down the road leaving at this point. They've had their waterworks show. I'm pretty shook. Like, I'm not feeling too good. And my cousin's over there still fiddling with her camera. As we get down the road, she's like, I still don't understand why this camera doesn't work. She goes to turn it on and it says full battery. I've always been a pretty anxious person, and I've also been told I'm a pretty big overreactor, but I don't know. In that situation, what would you guys do?
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
Me, I have one. So growing up, I lived in North Carolina, and our house was 1000% haunted. My sister follows me on here. Like, if she sees this video, she'll corroborate my story because Jesus fucking Christ. So when I was little, my dad was overseas. He was in the military. And so then when he came home, I think I was probably like 8, maybe 9. No, I was 8. And when he came home, I was like, oh, I want to sleep in the bed with daddy. Like, I want to sleep with dad. And he's like, yeah, of course. So I slept in his bed and his door was open. And I was up that night late reading with a flashlight because I was like, oh, I'm going to blow his socks off reading this book to him. And that night, I heard footsteps coming up the stairs. And it was like keys jangling. And so I like go under the covers, have the covers up to here. And in the doorway, I see an apparition of my father. My dad is laying next to me, but I see my dad as plain as day. Oh, it makes me sick just thinking about it. He's like a little bit transparent, like I can kind of see through him, but it's my father. It's 2000s glasses on the back of the head, spiked cargo shorts with the keys on the carabiner. Like, it was exactly my dad. Then he starts going, come here, Vivian. It's my name. Come here, Vivian. And I was like, no way. And I put my covers over my head. And when I looked back out, he was gone. I have so many other stories about that house, but that's the one that sticks with me the most because it scared me so bad. I'll tell you one. I don't remember this. This was told to me by my dad because I was a baby when it happened. But so there is basically 3 stories for our house. There's like the downstairs level that has a pool table, like billiards. And we are on the top floor, so 3 floors above that. And I'm a baby, like baby, sleeping in my crib, can't get out. And then one night, my dad hears me crying. And he goes to my room, crib empty, no baby. He starts freaking out, obviously. And he's searching around the house, following my cry. I'm downstairs, 3 stories down, on top of the pool table. I'm sat on the pool table, like holding a pool ball, crying. I'm telling you, I was probably like 14 months, 15 months. You cannot get out of your crib. Nor could I walk down all those stairs and then get on top of a pool table. Then what? And in that house, me and my sisters, we were on top of the stairs. They're a lot older than me, and they know this story. We were on top of the stairs, and we were looking down into the darkness. Nobody else was home, and we were just like playing with a bouncy ball, like throwing shit down there. You know how kids are stupid. And we threw a bottle cap down there, and it threw back at us, like.
Me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
I live in Oregon, and a friend of mine was having her bachelorette party at a cabin in the woods at the base of a very well-known mountain. I was looking forward to going. A lot of people I care about were going to be on that trip, and I thought it sounded like a really fun weekend just to get away and be in nature. And the first thing that happened when I left my house and I was just on the outskirts of town, I got such a strong feeling to turn around and grab some cleansing tools like sage, Palo Santo, whatever I had on hand. And it was so strong, I turned the car around, went home. My husband's like, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Oh, I don't know. I just had to use the bathroom and I don't want to use the gas station." totally fed him a line because I didn't want him to get worried. It was a really pleasant drive up there, a couple of hours. You're at least in the forest for, I'd say, 45 to 50 minutes before you find this house. This house. As soon as I pull up into the garage, I immediately just have this overwhelmingly heavy feeling that I really can't explain. 2 other people had arrived. They were there taking care of a lot of the organizational details. And I walked in, and my 2 friends are standing in the kitchen here and here. These are pictures of the property. And I walk in, and automatically, just with my sensitivities, I am like, there is something up there that is funky, and I don't like it, and I don't want to go near it. I feel like I am being stared at, and it is highly dark, highly uncomfortable. And so my 2 friends in the kitchen are like, hey Meg, how's it going? We're glad you're here. I'm like, yeah, how are you guys doing? They're like, we're great. And I'm like, yeah. Other than the thing that's up those stairs that's been staring at you the whole time. And they were like, oh my God, we were waiting for you to get here because we just had such a weird feeling and we're freaked out and we wanted to know what you thought, because they know I've got like sensitivities or whatever. I walked up the stairs and I got to about this spot right here, and I stopped because I literally felt like an energetic wall, like, do not go any further. My friend said, that's really weird. That's literally as far as we went to before you got here. And we, they were just checking out the house, and they went up into that weird little loft attic area, and they were like, nope, no further. This is the top of the stairs right here. And if you look way down in this loft area, there's a little door with a crawl space, and it was shut when we got there. As people started arriving, we were having fun joking, and one of the women went up there, and we were talking about how creepy it was, and she said, was the door open when you guys went up there? The crawl space door had been opened, and none of us had been up there. So that night, we're just kind of settling into the house, settling into the weekend, trying to figure out what's on the agenda, trying to have a good time. But if you're sensitive, you can just tell from these pictures, the place just had a creepy vibe. Those 2 same friends are sleeping in this room, and I am sleeping down here, downstairs, alone on a pull-out couch. First thing we notice is the incredible amount of dead insects all over the floor and even in the sheets. That night, one of my friends had her electronics go crazy at 3 a.m. I felt such a heavy layer of darkness. The first night I tried to go to sleep downstairs here on that pull-out couch, I felt like things were staring at me, circling me. I was this close to getting up and leaving in the middle of the night with a 2-hour drive home, rolling in at 5 a.m. with my husband, like, what are you doing? But I got this very clear message: you need to stay, and you need to help hold up some kind of energetic barrier. I had a dream when I eventually fell asleep that the entire property was surrounded by fire, and the fire couldn't penetrate this weird line that we were all trying to hold. So I was like, fine, okay, I guess I will stay in this freaky ass house. The next morning, we're all hanging out on the balcony and talking, having breakfast, having coffee, and people start to share their experiences. People were touched. People staying in the upstairs bedroom in the bunk beds had water dripped onto their faces, coming out of nowhere, and there were no leaks in the ceiling. It wasn't raining that weekend. Later that day, when most of the crew was playing yard games, like down here in the grass, one of the women was hanging out over here, and there was a deck of cards that literally got blown, and the cards were like flung into her face. I have no idea how that happened. At this point, I am getting so drained physically and feeling so sick, I need to go lie down. I'm alone in the house again, but I'm watching everybody from outside these windows where I'm at. Gosh, I can't point. And at this point, I'm just praying. Like, I'm here for a reason. These are people that I really care about and love, and I do not want to leave them here because I feel like I can be more helpful trying to hold off whatever this thing is. I did eventually run out to the corner store to test and make sure that the physical symptoms I was experiencing were really tied to the house and not just something going on with me. And as soon as I left the house, I felt so much better. But I had to come back. people were having personality changes while at the house. Like, they would start to withdraw, go take a shower, try and like snap out of it because they just felt something come over them. What I was picking up on primarily, that kind of like lived in that upstairs loft area, was something that was not nor had ever been human. This sounds really crazy because I've had run-ins with some really, really dark, start with a D word kind of entities. This wasn't even that. It almost felt like not from here, if you catch my drift. But it was, what I saw in my mind's eye was almost like a spidery looking thing. And it's interesting because another woman who was there told me that they saw that a spidery looking image of this big nasty thing like crawl from up in this main area down the stairs into the loft area where we were sleeping. And what's odd is that the safe places in the house would change depending on the time of day. It's like the rooms would just start to feel off. Another person said they were almost picking up on the presence of a man, like an older man. I wasn't picking up on a person, dead or alive, definitely a thing. The second night, one of my friends and I were just so uncomfortable about the idea of going to sleep that we just stayed up kind of deliriously talking to each other until, God, it must have been close to 4 a.m. just to not be asleep and unconscious in that environment. What's so weird and actually kind of miraculous if you think about it is that the bride was not affected. She was the only one out of all of us who had no idea what was going on because she was in her soon-to-be wed splendor. And also, this particular person has an incredible amount of spiritual protection around her. So we were all really grateful for that, and we'd kind of like whisper about what happened to you last night and this happened to me in the bathroom earlier, and we were all just kind of keeping it out of the realm of awareness of the bride, fortunately. By the last morning, I'll never forget, one of my friends had set up a beautiful create your own crepe kind of buffet line, and we were all sitting down around at breakfast, trying to eat and just feeling so uncomfortable, ready to get the heck out of there. Someone said, "So you picking up on anything, Megan?" And it's interesting because at that moment I felt just this overwhelming cloud, almost like darkness from every angle just starting to swoop in, and I said, I think it's time to go. The way everybody collectively pushed back from this table and popped up and got up and grabbed their stuff and started hauling ass out of there, it was like a scene in a movie. Other guests had weird experiences. I checked the book, paused to read. If anybody knows who this was, I would love to talk to you about your experience. This one's a little weird. I think some dude had a freaky experience and then leaned into the weirdness and hopefully just exaggerated because they didn't know what to make of it. We all stood outside of that house and we held hands in a circle, and I kind of led everybody through a grounding and protective and clearing exercise because it was so vile. The husband-to-be was actually having his stag party down the road, and they came over because they heard whispers and rumors about what was happening to us that weekend, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna run in and we're gonna take care of it." When they saw the look on our faces and they heard me say absolutely nobody's going into that house, they decided not to go in. I got in my car and was completely silent and white-knuckled my grip on the steering wheel until the tree line broke about an hour later and I was getting closer to home. I burst into tears and started sobbing because up until that point, I had never faced anything that dark or malevolent in my life. A few of us called each other after to process what had happened. It was wild.
Me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
I debated for a long time on if I even wanted to tell this story because, quite frankly, every time I tell it, it just creeps me out all over again. So I kind of try to just not think about it. But a few years ago, our family experienced one of the scariest things I've ever experienced in my nearly 37 years of life. So back in 2020, my oldest son had just turned 3 around this time. And up until this point, he had been an amazing sleeper. He was the type of kid who you could say, "Okay, Lawson, it's bedtime." And he'd take himself to his room. He'd soothe himself to sleep. He was a great sleeper. He slept all through the night. And I guess kind of to backtrack, it's maybe mildly important. I don't know how big of a role this doll really plays into the story, or if she's just a coincidence, but I had received a doll from an aunt that had been passed down in my family. Originally, it belonged to my great-great-grandmother and kind of cycled through every girl in our family. Everybody hates this doll. It's also important to note. Everybody always claimed that this doll is haunted. I didn't know how much I really believed that. Yes, it's creepy because it's an old creepy doll. And I'll see if I can find a picture of it and post it at the end of this video. But when it ended up with us, my oldest son did love this doll, played with it all the time, talked to it all the time. And not long after he started interacting with this doll, did all of this happen. So anyway, one night he has a terrible nightmare. He's screaming, crying, won't go back to sleep, needs me or my husband with him. So I go to him, I lay down with him in his room, and I'm like, it's okay, buddy, you know, I'm here, I'm gonna lay with you, I'll be with you tonight, you don't have to be scared. And the whole time I'm laying with him, trying to get him to go back to sleep, he is like staring over my shoulder off into the corner of his room. And I go to turn my head to see what he's staring at, and he stops my face with his hands. He's like, no, mommy, don't look at him. He's really scary. So I'm like, all right, let's go lay down in my bed. So I carry him and all of his things. We go lay down in my bed. And he's still just not very settled, still seems really shaken up. I'm like, buddy, you're in mommy and daddy's bed. You're safe now. It's fine. Let's go back to sleep. He's like, I know, but now he's staring at me from over there, a corner in my room. And this is just the beginning of a situation that went on for nearly a year. So after this, almost every single night he's having terrible nightmares, and it gets to a point where he absolutely refuses to go in he won't even go in his room to play. He won't even go in his room to get a toy out. If there's a toy in there that he wants, he will not go in his room alone. And he's also telling us in vivid detail the same story every single night, that he is seeing something crawl out of his closet and stand by his window, which is right next to his bed, and it's staring at him like this. And he says it's trying to eat him. He tells us this every single night, and this goes on for months and months. We're all exhausted. None of us are sleeping well because of this. And one night, I remember that we have leftover holy water from Lawson's baptism. So I'm like, you know what? We don't have anything to lose at this point. So I sprinkle it around his room. I create like a whole barrier around his bed, basically, just to see what happens. Like I said, we had nothing to lose at this point. And believe it or not, he actually slept better that night. But my youngest son, who was just a baby at the time, he has a horrible night sleeping. He's up screaming, seems scared, creeped out, whatever. And then the next day, when I have to take Lawson to preschool, he refuses to go. And typically he loved school at this time, but he refuses to go because he does not want his baby brother left alone. He is terrified and makes me promise that I won't leave his baby brother alone in his bedroom. I have to be with him all day. And I have to promise him, like, buddy, he's gonna be okay. I'm gonna be with him the whole time. He won't be left alone. Like, everything's gonna be okay. And at this point, you know, I'm really freaked out at this point. I had also taken a picture of my husband on the monitor in Lawson's bedroom, where he had been laying on the floor holding Lawson's hand, trying to help him fall asleep. And I didn't notice it until after I took the picture, but you can see like the shadow of a hand or a claw like holding my husband's shoulder as he holds Lawson's hand trying to help him fall asleep. And I'll post that picture too, but that, even just thinking about it, gave me the worst chills, like just to my core, freaked me out. This was also around the time that filter was trending on TikTok, where people were kind of walking around their house with this filter, and then if the temperature changed colors, it was supposed to show you if your house was haunted or not. And so of course I'm like, oh, just for shits and giggles, let's see what pops up on here. I take it in Lawson's bedroom, not seeing anything. So then I take it into the closet where he always says he's seeing this thing come out of, and of course it lights up like a Christmas tree. And I try to rationalize it away, but at this point, like I said, we're all just so creeped out. And this has gone on for nearly a year at this point. So we end up contacting a priest. And he's telling us that sometimes dark spirits or evil things can attach themselves to objects. He's asking us, if we brought anything new into the house. I mentioned the doll. I mentioned that, people in my family have said creepy things have happened where this doll is surrounded, but I mean, I don't really know, so he does recommend me giving him the doll so that he can dispose of it properly. So we make arrangements to do that. Then he asked me if Lawson is calling this thing by any specific name. And I'm like, he is actually. He calls this thing Bow. And he goes, well, there is actually a demon, and I don't want to say his name because he told me that, names hold power, but there is a powerful demon and his name is Baal. And he has like a thing for firstborn male children, all of this stuff. And it creeped me out so bad, learning the information about this demon. I just can't tell you how unsettling it was. We get rid of the doll. We pass the doll off to the priest. He gives us some very specific instructions on very specific things to say and do around our house. He has us open a Bible to a very specific passage and then place this open Bible in the closet and leave it there. And eventually things do calm down. He starts sleeping a little better at night. He's not talking about it every day. But even still to this day, if things have gotten better, he doesn't mention it, but he still won't sleep in that room without somebody with him. He's nearly 7. He's just turned 7 at this point and wants somebody still to sleep in bed with him and help him fall asleep. And if you even mention the name Bow or Baal, he freaks out. We're all still shaken up by it. But anyway, so yeah, that's our creepy ghost story. And I'll post those pictures now.
Me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true.
You sure? Okay. So this takes place in Virginia, in a place that is locally referred to as Hillbend, Virginia. This is some old country back here. And this would have been 21 years ago or so. My daughter would have been just born, and I was still with her father. Young family starting out, they had a farmhouse that gets passed through the generations, and they were like, hey, this is empty at the moment. We're not renting it out. You can stay here, no rent, just utilities until you get on your feet. We're talking a beautiful 2-story home, acreage with grandma right across the street at a reduced rate. Absolutely. We jumped at the opportunity. They even left a bunch of pieces of furniture in there, like a bed, different things, like just different pieces of furniture left around. So we had a partially furnished home at a reduced rate. Absolutely. Say less. And 4 months of living there, Almost nothing. I will say maybe 4 or 5 little instances that I could definitely blow off to be anything or everything, not enough to mention until New Year's night. New Year's night was a culmination of I have no idea, but when I tell you me and the father of my children can't even agree on like what color the sky is half the time, I could call that man right now and he will tell you that this is gospel spoken in a pulpit. Do you understand? That's where we're at. New Year's night. Babysitter. We got a babysitter. We're like, hey, let's go down to the neighbors. They're going to have a little shindig. Let's go down there and hang out with them. I don't drink. So let's preface this. I'm sober. He may have had a couple beers. I'm sober. So went down there, hang out, ate, did all the things. It's after midnight. What do you do in rural Virginia? Nothing. There's nothing to do. We were like, let's just take a loop around the bend. We go past the house, just look, everything's quiet, calm, and collected. We do our loop around the bend. Takes us about 15 minutes, if that. As we're approaching the house, what cuts through the dark is our upstairs light. And we're like, what the hell? We know grandma is not going to be in our home at no 1, 2 o'clock in the morning unless it's an emergency or someone's in my house. So we get to the house, we pull in the driveway. Every single light is on in my home. And there is a music emitting from my house that I didn't know my house could make music this loud. Continue. So I send him in. We notice right off the bat, we don't see any windows open, and we have to use our keys to get in. Neither the back nor the front door were unlocked or open. So we had to use the lock. He comes in and gives me a little cordless phone, because back then didn't have cell phone. If they did, I was broke. We didn't have one. So I'm saying from a cordless phone. I watched him go through the rooms cutting stuff off. The music is still going, and I'm just sitting out here like, oh no. And next thing you know, I hear this man holler at me in a way that is not like, it's terror and fear. It's something I still to this day have never heard him be this way. But he was, please get in here. Please get in here now. You have to see this. And it was such urgency and fear. I'll just go. And with everything I'm telling not to, I just go because I hear it in his voice. And when I walk into my room, there was a piece of furniture that I presumed was like this beautiful tabletop that she had left a pretty lamp on. And she said we could use it. And so I had some books up there and knickknacks. It was this cute little thing that I used in the bedroom. Everything was cleared off of this and stacked extremely neat in a corner. This tabletop piece is now in the middle of our room that flips up. He did know that this did this. I didn't. And revealed a record player and a radio that is blasting music me or him nor would never listen to. And the part of this that is the most chilling, if you haven't got there, is the cord. The cord to this piece was stretched so tight into an electrical socket you could almost flick the cord. And me and him are just in silence, stunned. So we unplug it, we get everything back in the room, and it's just this eerie silence. And if that wasn't enough, we just kind of in unison sit on the bed, and the next thing you know, as like it stills, the bed just does this very, that was it. I slept in the truck, moved out the next day. And when and I can't say this enough, we don't agree on anything but this story. Yeah.
If you got your own creepy story, audacity stitch, or glitch moment of your own, send it in. You might end up on the next compilation or podcast episode. And y'all make sure that y'all go check out some of these new items that are in the shop because they're not lasting. When I say some of these items are so hard to keep on my shelves because my customers love them. I've been seeing a huge influx in a lot of the self-care items. And again, one of the newest ones is the body oil. If y'all have not tried this body oil, when I say it pairs so nicely with different colognes, perfumes, or even if you just want to use your own unscented items, this pairs so nicely and it's so light, so fresh, and it's not greasy. For it to be a body oil, because I researched, because I was looking for something that was not going to be greasy because I like to wear white a lot. I like to wear different things and I hate when I get those grease stains on my clothes. So when I say I had to do my research to figure out what type of oil was going to be the best, this right here definitely passed the test. And the body oils are perfect for people like me who need just a little bit of extra moisture in those colder winter months. Because one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I lock in some moisture because I cannot stand when my skin is dry. Y'all won't catch me out here looking like a reptilian. But if you want to learn more about my products, you can always check out my second YouTube page, Luna Nova 5. But let me go ahead and get out of here. Y'all stay safe, stay aware, and remember, some things don't just go bump in the night. Sometimes they're watching. But drink your water, mind your business, and stay creative and protected. And as always, Luna loves you. I'll be back with another one for you guys, if the spirits allow it. Give it right back, did they give it right back? This look, kitty, can I sit right back? Wanna give it right back?